Hi all, welcome back to i-TUTOR IAS Academy Tamilnadu History NCERT series. Today we are discussing chapter 23, the coming of Europeans. So this is actually the modern era of Indian history, and so we will discuss further. And the arrival of Europeans, starting with the Vasco da Gama in 1498, okay, in Calicut, was a major historical turning point. Actually, the marking the beginning of the modern era and colonialism. The word colonialism start from the coming of Europeans, okay, and it established direct sea routes, dismantling all trade monopolies and initiating global commercial networks. And this period fundamentally restructured Indian society, politics, and economics through colonial exploitation, cultural exchange, and technological shift. Okay, and key reasons why arrival of European is important in history was the establishment of direct maritime trade and colonialism and territorial dominations, and what began as commercial ventures, that is Portuguese, Dutch, British, French, shifted into military domination, leading to the creation of the British Empire in India. And economic transition, cultural and social impact, political shift, and these events led to centuries of European political and economic control, profoundly shaping the modern world and the geopolitics of Indian subcontinent. Okay, so this is the uh, just intro for the coming of Europeans. Actually, this is the end of in last chapter. We just discuss about causes of decline of Mughals and Marathas, everyone. So this is one of the reason. Actually, the starting of colonialism was one of the reason for that. And here we will discuss further the commercial contact. Actually, in this chapter, we will discuss the coming of the Portuguese to India, establishment of the Dutch, French, English, and Danish trading centers in India, and the Anglo-French rivalry in the Carnatic region, and rise of British power in Bengal. Actually, okay, so this is the modern history, totally the beginning of modern history from here. And the commercial contact between between India and European were very old via the land route, either through the Oxus Valley or Syrian or Egypt. And but the new sea route via the Cape of Good Hope was discovered by Vasco da Gama in 1498. So the picture of Vasco da Gama is here, and uh, thereafter, many trading companies came to India and established their trading centers, and they entered India as traders at the outset. By the passage of time, indulged in the politics of India and finally established their colonies. And the commercial rivalry among the European power led to political rivalry also. Ultimately, the British succeeded in establishing their rule in India. So that is the picture. This is the picture of Vasco da Gama, and the entry of Portuguese start from there. And the Portuguese traveler Vasco da Gama reached the port of Calicut on 17 May 1498, and he was warmly received by Samorin, the ruler of Calicut. He returned to Portugal in the next year, and Pedro Alves Cabral arrived in 1500, and Vasco da Gama also made a second trip in 1502. They established trading stations at Calicut, Kannur, and Kochi. And the first governor of the Portuguese in India was Francis de Almeida. Later in 1509, Albuquerque was made the governor of the Portuguese territory in India. In 1510, he captured Goa from the ruler of Bijapur. Hope you remember the Bijapur ruler and all. And please refer that chapter. Thereafter, Goa became the capital of the Portuguese settlement in India, and Albuquerque captured Malacca and Ceylon. He also built a fort at Calicut, and he encouraged his countrymen to marry Indian women. And Albuquerque died in 1550, leaving the Portuguese as the strongest naval power in India. And the successor of Albuquerque established Portuguese settlement at Daman and Salsette and Bombay on the west coast, and at San Tom near Madras, and Hooghly in Bengal on the east coast. However, the Portuguese power declined in India by the end of 16th century. Okay, 16th century around Portuguese power declined and they lost all possessions in India except Goa, Diu and Daman in the next century. And the Dutch time, the Dutch East India Company was established in 1602. The merchant of this company came to India and established their settlement at Masulipatanam, Pulikat, Surat, Karaikal, Nagapattinam, Chinsurua, and Kasim Bazar. And in the 17th century, they won over the Portuguese and emerged the most dominant power in European trade in the East. Pulikat was their main center in India, and later it was replaced by Nagapattinam. And in the middle of the 17th century, the English began to emerge as a big colonial power, and the Anglo Dutch rivalry lasted for about 7 decades, during which period the Dutch lost their settlement to the British one by one. And the English East India Company was established in 1600, and the charter was issued by Queen Elizabeth of England, and Captain Hawkins arrived at the royal court of Jahangir in 1609 to seek permission to establish English trading center at Surat, and but it was refused by the Mughal emperor due to Portuguese pressure. Later in 1612, Jahangir issued a firman, that is a permission letter to the English, and they established a trading factory at Surat in 1613. And Sir Thomas Roy came to India as ambassador of James I, the King of England, to Mughal court in 1615, and he obtained permission from Jahangir to establish English trading factories in different parts of India. And the English established their factories at Agra, Ahmedabad, Baroda, and Braj by 1619. The English East India Company acquired Bombay from Charles II, and then the King of England in 1639. Francis Day founded the city of Madras, where the Fort St. George was built. And in 1690, an English factory was established at a place called Sutanuti by Job Charnock. Later, it developed into the city of Calcutta, where Fort William was built, and later Calcutta became the capital of British India. This Bombay, Madras, Calcutta became three presidency town of the English settlement in India. Okay, and the French East India Company was formed in 1664 by Colbert, a minister under Louis XIV. The first French factory in India was established at Surat by Francis Caron, and later Maracara set up a factory at Mazulipattanam, and Francois Martin founded Pondicherry in 1673. Other French factories in India were Chandranagore, Mahi, and Karaikal. Okay, and Francois Martin was the first governor of Pondicherry, the headquarter of French possessions in India. So please remember this order. Okay, first of all Portuguese, then Dutch, English, French, then after that there is Danes. Denmark also established trade settlement in India. Their settlement at Tranquebar was found in 1620, and another important Danish settlement in India was Serampur in Bengal, and Serampur was their headquarters in India, and they failed to strengthen themselves in India, and they sold all their settlement in India to the British in 1845. An Anglo-French rivalry. In the beginning of the 18th century, the English and the French were competing with each other to establish their supremacy in India, and both of them used the political turmoil prevalent in India as a result of the decline of Mughal Empire in their favor and indulged in internal politics. The Anglo-French rivalry in India was manifest in the Carnatic region and in Bengal. So, Carnatic War. This is the picture of Dupleix. The downfall of Mughal Empire led to the independence of Deccan under the Nizam ul Mulk, and the Carnatic region also formed a part of Nizam's dominance. The ruler of Carnatic accepted the suzerainty of the Nizam, and in 1740, the Austrian War of Succession broke out in Europe, and in that war, the England and France were in the opposite camps, and they became into conflict in India also. The French governor of Pondicherry, Dupleix, opened attack on the English in 1746, and thus began the First Carnatic War. So this is the First Carnatic War around 1746 to 1748. And the English sought help from the Nawab of Carnatic, Anwaruddin, and but the French concluded a treaty with his rival Chanda Sahib. The English army crushed a defeat on the French in the Battle of Adyar near Madras. In the meantime, the Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle was concluded in 1748, and to the end, the Austrian Succession War and the First Carnatic War came to end. Okay, that is about First Carnatic War. And but the English and French continued to take opposite side in the internal politics of India, and this had resulted in the Second Carnatic War. So Second Carnatic War time period is 1749 to 54. Dupleix supported the cause of Muzaffar Jang, who wanted to become the Nizam of Hyderabad, and Chanda Sahib, and aspirants for the throne of Arcot. The troops of these three defeated Anwar Uddin, who was with British in the First Carnatic War, and killed him in Battle of Ampur in 1749. After this victory, Muzaffar Jung became the Nizam and Chanda Sahib and the Nawab of Akkot. And Muhammad Ali, son of Anwaruddin, escaped to Tiruchirappalli, and the English sent troops in support for him. In the meantime, the British commander Robert Clive captured Arcot. He also inflicted a severe defeat on the French at Kaveri Pakkam. And Chanda Sahib was captured and beheaded in Tanjore. And meanwhile, the Dupleix was replaced by Godehu as the French governor. And the war came to an end by the Treaty of Pondicherry in 1754. That's about the Second Carnatic War. And the outbreak of the 7-Year War 1756 to 1763 in Europe led to the Third Carnatic War, and that is the around 1758 to 1763. Count Lally was the commander of the French troop, and the British General Sir Eyre Cote defeated him at Wandiwash in 1760. And in the next year, the Pondicherry was captured and destroyed by the British troop. Then the 7-Year War came to an end by the Treaty of Paris in 1763. The Third Carnatic War also ended there, and the French agreed to confine its activity in Pondicherry, Karaikal, Mahi, and the Yanam. So this is the French colonies now also Pondicherry, Karaikal, Mahi, and Yanam, and thus the Anglo-French rivalry came to a close with British success and French failure. Okay, so that is about the Carnatic Wars. So Carnatic War was one of the turning point of Britishers, and the causes for the French failure can be summed up as followed. First one is commercial and naval superiority of the English and lack of support from the French government. French had support only in Deccan, but the English had a strong base in Bengal also. And English had three important ports, that is Calcutta, Bombay, and Madras, but French had only Pondicherry. And the difference of opinion between the French generals and England's victory in European war, they decided by the destiny of the French India in India. Okay, so then the British Raj started from here. Okay, establishment of British power in Bengal. So this is the picture of Robert Clive. Bengal remained one of the fertile and wealthy region of India. The English ascendancy in Bengal proved to be an basis for the expansion of English rule in India. Okay, the conflict between the Nawab of Bengal, Siraj ud Dawla, and the English led to the Battle of Plassey, held on 23 June 1757, and the Robert Clive, the commander of the British troop, emerged victorious by defeating the Nawab's army. The easy English victory was due to the treachery of Mir Jabbar, the commander of Nawab's army. However, the victory of the British in Battle of Plassey marked the foundation of the British rule in India. And in 1764, the English once again defeated the combined force of the Nawab of Oudh, the Mughal Emperor, and Nawab of Bengal in Battle of Buxar. and the English military superiority was decisively established. And in 1765, Robert Clive was appointed as the governor of Bengal, and in the same year, the Treaty of Allahabad was concluded, by which the Mughal emperor granted the Diwani rights to the English East India Company. Thus, the British power in India was thoroughly established. Okay, so this is the intro of modern history and the end of medieval history. So here is the Indian history, the total timeline. There is ancient history. We already discussed ancient history and the transition of medieval history. So we started from here, Neolithic period. Hope you remember. And then after that, Indus Valley civilization are there. Post Indus Valley period is there. Vedic civilization and Mahajanapadas, Nanda dynasty, Maurya dynasty, Shunga dynasty and Kalwa dynasty, Kushan dynasty and Satavahana dynasty in ancient time we discussed. And classical periods also there. There is a Gupta dynasty, Chalukya dynasty, Harsha's time period, and Karakota dynasty, Chola dynasty in South history, and Triparty struggle and Arab invasion in India, and Triparty struggle again. And in the medieval time, there is Delhi Sultanate and Pandyan dynasty, Vijayanagara, Bengal Sultanate. After that, the entry of Mughals, Suri dynasty, Mughal dynasty. After that, Suri dynasty, then Maratha Empire, and we discussed in last chapter. So this is the about medieval history, and they are all local rulers. But from modern time, there is a colonialism started. So kingdom of Mysore and company Raj, Sikh empire, there is great rebellion is there, British Raj, and after that the independence of India. So this is the short timeline of Indian history. And here we conclude summary act as a bridge between the study of medieval Indian history, and that is roughly 8th century to 18th century, and the commencement of modern Indian history, that is mid 18th century onwards. Okay, so the medieval Indian period, that is around 700 to 1757, we discussed these all chapters. And the medieval period in India was not merely a middle age of stagnation, but a dynamic era of synthesis, cultural fusion, and massive political structure. This is a political shift. The era began with the decentralized regional kingdoms, that is Palas, Pratiharas, Rashtrakutas, etc. These are the regional kingdoms, and transformed into centralized, then re-decentralized structure under the Delhi Sultanate and the Mughal Empire. Right, and there is also a cultural amalgamation, and social and religious changes are we discussed. And the transition point is the medieval era concluded with the decline of the great Mughal after Aurangzeb, the around 1707, and leading to the rise of regional powers, that is Marathas, Sikh, Nizam, etc., and the eventual political vacuum that allowed the foreign trading entities to establish themselves. Okay, so that is the European power. And the beginning of modern Indian history is generally marked by the decline of the Mughal Empire and the shift from the commercial to political control by European powers, particularly the British East India Company. Okay, so one by one we will discuss, and this is actually here we end the Tamil Nadu history NCERT +1 chapter, and +2 we will discuss all modern history, and there we will discuss the political vacuum of modern India, and advent of European traders, economic transition, and colonization and social change, resistance and nationalism, or etc. we will discuss. Okay, so in this unit, so far we will discussed about the growth and decline of the Portuguese power in India, Dutch, English, French, and Danish settlement in India, Anglo-French rivalry, and the three Carnatic Wars, growth of British power in Bengal, and the Battle of Plassey, and also three Carnatic Wars we discussed. Right. Please revise it. In between any doubts, you can contact us anytime. And for more content, do like, share, and subscribe our channel. Thank you so much.